Legion Outpost for Superboy and the Legion 243. It's purple this time. I think this will be maybe a more brief letters page because they've got this month they've got the very exciting statement of ownership taking up about a third of the letters page.
It's like we got maybe 5 letters.
Yeah. The first letter is from Al Schroeder III of Nashville, Tennessee. Excellent. Superboy and the Legion 245 was a fitting end to a great serial. He's talking about the 5-part EARTHWAR series. One of the best Legion stories ever. Mordru has ever been the Legion's greatest enemy, and you are able to involve everybody. Get Saturn Girl and Lightning Lad back in the Legion, and have a great Earth conquest, and even a reasonable way of overcoming Mordru based on known powers and weaknesses. Good characterizations, great action, a fitting climax. I didn't know that Mordru was in EARTHWAR. Did you know that?
Yeah, I think he's the final boss.
I thought it was the Dark Circle.
Well, I can't say for sure, but I think maybe they were being manipulated by him.
Wow. That's like layers of manipulation, right? Like the Dark Circle was controlling the Coons, and then Mordru is controlling the Dark Circle.
Yeah, who knows how off I am, but I seem to remember like maybe they defeat the Dark Circle and they think it's like a false ending, and then all of a sudden, Mordru comes in kind of in the last issue towards the end.
Right. And then it turns out that Mordru doesn't pay taxes because he has like a shell corporation in the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
The next letter is from Beppy Sabatini from East Lansing, Michigan. He says, conjuring up Murphy Anderson to ink Superboy in the LSH 245 was a feat of magic greater than anything Mordru ever accomplished. Mordru, more than anything else, gave this issue the resounding ring and rich feeling of an old-time classic. The art couldn't help reminding you of Swan or Cockrum. Not to mention the fun of seeing the whole mob of LSHers out at once. I really appreciate the tremendous amount of work and research that went into those scenes, and that galactic coordinator was one terrific-looking alien. The mind link, the official meeting, Mordru's prestidigitation, all of them marvels by the amazing Joe Staton. Joe probably hated this story, but I loved it. I guess he might have hated it just because of all the stuff he had to draw.
Yeah,
I guess that's what he means.
Yeah, that's what I take from that.
I think Joe Staton inked by Murphy Anderson sounds like kind of a good mix, maybe. He says it reminds you of Swan or Cockrum. I guess that sounds pretty good. I'm not a huge Murphy Anderson fan, typically. I think maybe you like him a little bit better than me.
I like him okay. I know he's widely regarded as maybe Swan's best inker, at least in the 70s. He's good.
Yeah, people love him on Swan, I think.
They called him Swanderson.
Swanderson, yeah. I guess I'm eager now to read the rest of EARTHWAR after reading just a random issue of it a month ago. And then Ed Via, I think he's a returning letter writer from Roanoke, Virginia. The concluding chapter in EARTHWAR series had the ominous feel of an epic battle and the bold action of a whipcord thriller. Confrontations of this scale or something comics are uniquely suited to showing the unleashing of great forces, whether mystical or otherwise, need not reduce the characters to human transformers if the writer and artist are careful to avoid making the forces, rather than those who wield them, the center attraction. Fortunately, Paul Levitz, Joe Staton, and Murphy Anderson avoided this entirely, resulting in a fine story which saw the Legionnaires giving their all for Mother Earth, capital M, capital E, Mother Earth. The epilogue righted a long-standing wrong and permitted married Legionnaires to maintain their membership. Appropriately, Saturn Girl and Lightning Lad decided to rejoin, and Bouncing Boy and Geo Damsel decided not to. It was the perfect ending to a truly great series.
That's funny. I remember hating that scene because I like those two characters. I probably like them better than Saturn Girl and Lightning Lad, to be honest.
I think I do too. In the subsequent years, like the characterization of Bouncing Boy and Duo Damsel, they're like way more
Hmm.
real, I guess, people than Saturn Girl and Lightning Lad.
Yeah. And I tend to gravitate towards underdog characters anyway. I
Yeah.
think because I've always kind of been that way with comics, and I think it on maybe even a subconscious level, I felt I understood there was more jeopardy for those sorts of characters. You don't have to really worry about any of the big guys dying, at least not for good. But your B list characters, they could die and they're dead. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, and Duo Damsel is already like a third of her has been killed.
Like they could probably kill, Bouncing Boy at any minute and everybody would be good. He was a worthless character anyway, or whatever. So that translated somehow to me having more attachment to those characters because I was genuinely worried about them in a way I wouldn't be for, I want to say Superboy, but they did kill him.
Bill Keller, Jacksonville, Texas. I'm afraid you didn't live up to my expectations with the Earth War epic. In 241, you stated before it ends, every Legionnaire will have played his part, but we never saw Timberwolf or Shadowlass in action against the Coons, and Tyrock, though mentioned, never appears. Also, the art and coloring was under par in some places, but I think Joe Staton, preferably teamed with Abel or Jella, does a much better job than Sherman on the Legion.
Damn.
Wow, he likes Staton better than Sherman. Who is this guy?
That's crazy. That is crazy. He does have a point though about or Tyrock.
What's crazy is that Tyrock even showed up in this 250. How come Steve Apollo shows up out of the blue and uses Tyrock, and the regular guys never bother with him? Like he's in the like just in a conversation scene in 250. Doesn't do anything, but at least he's there.
Was he a Carrie Bates character? I can't remember. Or did Levitz himself come up with him?
No, it's either Shooter and Grell or Bates and Grell. I don't remember either.
I know Levitz's excuse over the years has been he was embarrassed to use him because, he's so, well, it's kind of racist, the name and is close to Tyrone. But it just seems like a lame ass excuse. It's like, well, write him better or give him a better name or make him a better character. Like you're kind of doubling down and making it worse by just having him in the background all the time.
Right. And well, like back in these days before you could expect every reader to know every bit of minutia, like you could put a character in there who was introduced 10 years ago and no one would have any idea what his first issue was like, and they do that all the time. Like we see the substitute heroes and stuff, and it's like, where'd they ever come from? They're not explaining that really in this issue, but they're just heroes. And
if if you look back at like John Stewart in the 70s, he's kind of a jive talking kind of stereotypical character, and they just wrote him better over time. And we've kind of I'm not saying it was right. I'm saying you could improve, you could move forward, you could make the characters better. And so I think it just makes it, unless you just write him out entirely, like just by having him, oh, you stay here for monitor duty every issue, it just makes it look worse.
Yeah, or like people write in and say, "Hey, where's Tyrock?" And Levitz's response is that it's too prejudiced to bring him back. I don't know. People want him,
right?
Just figure it out. You're the writer, instead of
I'm not attributing any ill intent on Levitz, but I do think that that is like a retroactive excuse or something. I don't know that he was really concerned with that in 1976.
Yeah, it doesn't really hold water to me either. I wonder where Staton was, like what comics had Joe Jella inking Joe Staton? Does that ring a bell to you?
No.
I don't think Joe Jella ever did any Legion books. I don't remember. He's much more of a Silver Age guy, I guess, or more of like he's in the world of Superman and Batman, I guess. Yeah, I think he's a. I think it was. I think Jella did Batman on like Irv Novick or something, right?
I'm seeing lots of Batman, Silver Age stuff, one of the famous issues, in fact.
There was that interview that I watched with Joe Jella on that comic book historians YouTube site. Did you watch that one?
I haven't seen it. Apparently, unless Wikipedia hasn't been updated, he's still alive.
Huh.
94 years old. Holy crap.
Wow, he could be.
But all the Silver Agers were gone. Is the video good?
It was pretty good. He has this. He tells a story about how he quit. He quit DC twice in one day because of Mort Weisinger. Cheryl Fuller, Sunnyvale, California. Superboy LSH 245 was a humdinger of an ending for the EARTHWAR series, with Paul Levitz using almost as much sugar and light, but far more logic to wrap up threads left by Jim Shooter as E. Nelson Bridwell did for Ed Hamilton. Of course, scriptwriters being survival types, I needn't worry that the 30th century will long remain without conflict. I'm sure some coon is holed away in backwaters, hungry for revenge, and that a meteorite could easily free Mordru, and there are still crooks and politicos aplenty. What does she mean here? She says Levitz wraps up threads left by Shooter in the same way that Bridwell wrapped up threads left by Hamilton. I guess she's referring to Mordru showing up. I guess Levitz must have brought some kind of closure to the Mordru arc somehow. Like they must have put him to rest really solidly at the end of EARTHWAR. Have to read it to know for sure.
There's a lot going on in that.
I'm not sure where Shooter may have left Mordru after Adventure Comics.
It's kind of hard to envision any like dangling plot lines from this period. I mean, this is still the time of largely self-contained stories. What did Ed Hamilton leave behind that hadn't been resolved? That's even further back, you know?
Yeah, I don't think anything. Yeah, except for just the origin of the Legion.
Something like that.
That's like the main contribution that Bridwell did.
Right.
I mean, I guess there's just always going to be people who really want everything just wrapped up nice and tight. Like if you have a character whose backstory isn't explained, they're like, "What'd you do? You forgot to tell us everything about this guy." Like this guy in the Star Wars Cantina, he has the death sentence on 7 systems. What does that mean? We need a movie about this, you know? And I guess that's what this is all about, you know? Like people really like E. Nelson Bridwell for giving us the origin story of how Lightning Lord got his white hair, and how they buried Mordru for the most impressive way we buried Mordru and got him out of the way, or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't really care. Like that, I know that they must have a story, but I don't need to know.
Right. Well, then there's like the fans, and some of them, to be fair, are kids, but who want them to solve the problem that actually keeps them tuning in for more or reading more, like the people who want Mulder and Scully to consummate their relationship, or for her to know that there are aliens for sure, but then there's no reason for the story anymore. You know, like some things you have to just drag out for as long as possible. Like you take away the whatever it is that is drawing people in to watch or read.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like they confuse, like, I don't know, like in real life, if I was Mulder and I had Scully, like, yeah, I want her to be my girlfriend, and I want her to believe in aliens and see them. But that's real life. Like if I'm trying to deliver you a story, like, yeah, once she believes in aliens and she's my girlfriend, like all right, we're done. You know, there's no more tension there anymore.
Well, yeah, like in TV, the famous example is Moonlighting. Like they had Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd sleep together, whatever, become a couple, and then the ratings dropped. Or another great example, Twin Peaks, when they solved the Laura Palmer thing. I mean, the fans are crying for it, but the fans don't always know what they want. You don't always give the fans what they want.
People are so fucking stupid, dude. Like, you know what you want. You want this story to last forever, right?
Right.
You want this to go on because you love it. Like, why do you think you want them to?
Right.
Like the thing I'm waiting for week after week. Who
Right.
did this? What? This is crazy.
Right.
Who did it? Tell me. But like, you don't actually want them to tell you. You know, like if you could go your whole life and still believe in Santa Claus, and you're still getting presents every year, and somebody's like, "No, Santa Claus left that here," you wouldn't be like, "No, who really did this?" You would be devastated when you're 30 and somebody's like, "No, Santa Claus is fake. It's your mom the whole time," right? And then you can't go back. You're like, "Oh shit, I wish I hadn't asked." Like, but by this time you were 30, you knew what would happen if you found out for sure what was happening here. This is Pandora's box.
Right. Stories need ambiguity. You don't want complete closure. You want.
So now the editor's back. I don't know who the editor was on this. I didn't make a note of it.
Jack C. Harris.
Oh, is it Harris? Okay. I assume that's who's answering this letter column. He says, Paul's back this issue and next with Jim Starlin, wrapping up some other loose ends and blushing from the overwhelmingly favorable response to EARTHWAR. But wait till you see what Jerry Conway's got cooking when he resumes his regular role as a Legion scripter with number 252. Sorry to cut this column short, but it's annual Keep the Post Office Happy time. See you in 30 days, and we hope you enjoyed this anniversary special. I think it's kind of funny that they don't make it a secret that Jim Starlin wrote issue 250, even though it's not credited to him in the credits box. Like I assume that a person like a kid, the 10-year-old who buys Legion comics back in 1979, he doesn't think about who the writer is, and maybe like I did as a kid, didn't even read this letters page, but
maybe he asked to have his name taken off at the last minute or something.
That could be. In one of the other issues we've read recently, Paul answers the letters and he's like, "Oh, maybe we'll have Jim Starlin come back pretty soon to follow up on 250 or 239." And it's just Steve Apollo. Like, nobody mentions who this guy Steve Apollo is. But they say next issue is going to be Paul and Jim Starlin.
Well, I mean, he was obviously on board at one point before things went south.
Would a comics fan of this time period recognize that this is Jim Starlin's layouts? Like, Jim Starlin had a hand in this, and be like, why is it signed Steve Apollo when I can tell Jim Starlin did this book?
I don't recognize him. But I'm not like I'm not a Starlin historian, but I recognize Starlin's style in the first part. That reminds me of him very strongly. This, not so much. It just seems a little more generic.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is the heavy-handed inker, and we don't know how finished all the pencils were, I guess.
Well, and you don't know how much
penciling too. It's like he just did kind of layouts.
Well, and didn't you tell me that some of the pages are generated from scratch to complete some stuff? So maybe like there's some stuff that's maybe 100% Dave Hunt pencil pages or drawn pages.
Almost certainly, like the first page of like the second part would probably be one of those. And
yeah, I would like to see them eventually do. I should have put this on the other video. Eventually do the director's cut. Even though Starlin said he would never do it, they should do it. They should figure it out.
I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened. I'm surprised because DC is desperate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't like a Lulu.com secret link to buy the remastered one, or the scrounge up the pages from comic art fans and heritage auctions and they put it together or something. Maybe they're just not out there yet.
Yeah. His Warlock stuff, like, know if Warlock had his own series or if he was maybe in Strange Tales, but there are collections of it on the website, the read comics. It's pretty cool looking, way cooler looking than this issue.
This you're talking about the
No, no, no,
'90s,
no, no.
the
The
earlier
pre
stuff.
Legion Warlock stuff.
I'll have to look at that. I don't know. I know jack squat about '70s
Yeah,
Marvel.
a lot
Really,
of it has. It almost looks like those Marvel blacklight posters. Like it's a little psychedelic looking.
I wonder what this what the spectacular story Jerry Conway's got cooking for 252 is going to be.
We could always look ahead into the future.
I don't have easy access to the internet right now, but I don't know. It's probably pretty exciting. Jerry Conway 252.
It looks really exciting. There's like an alien with a horse on the cover.
Oh yeah, I remember that cover.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think
it's a Dick Giordano cover. I have no idea what the story is.
yeah they're fighting. They're fighting a golden horse.
Wow. That would be a perfect opportunity to kind of dredge up Comet the Super Horse and the rest of the Super Pets.
Indeed.
But I bet they didn't do that.
No, I don't see them. Usually, I think the Dave Hunt, Joe Staten team. I like the artwork normally. It looks really rushed and half-assed with this one. It looks like he didn't use the big thick brush on his work that he did in those other
Oh, really?
issues.
Dave Hunt isn't using the thick brush?
Um,
That's weird. Like, that's the only brush I thought he had.
Maybe it's a slightly thinner one. I don't know.
Any comments about the statement of ownership?
Um,
It says annual subscription is $6.75. Does this show the circulation on here? Here we go. Total number of copies printed during the preceding 12 months, 384,000.
whoa,
Actual number of copies of single issue published nearest to filing date, 354,765. And I don't know when the filing date was, but within, I assume within the few months preceding 250,
mm-hmm,
they're printing around 350,000 issues.
mm-hmm.
Sales through dealers and carriers, street vendors, and counter sales. Average number of copies each issue during preceding 12 months, 138,740.
Crazy. It's interesting. You would think maybe they'd want to. I don't know. They probably want to downplay it here for I don't know tax purposes, but then but since it's public, they want to exaggerate it to the fans. So they're lying up or down.
Yeah, I feel like I read something one time. Maybe it was Dick Giordano, like in an interview when he was a little bit higher up in the company, and he
Mm-hmm.
said these numbers were just made up out of whole cloth.
Right, right.
But they're so specific. But I don't know either. 354,765. That could be kind of a made up number. They're all kind of like right in a row on your keyboard. But I'm not quite sure what the purpose is of. It's like a lot of information that, may or may not
Mm-hmm.
be actual, but then also like it can tell you the number of issues
Mm-hmm.
printed and the number sold. And if you believe that, there is around almost 350 or 400,000 published or printed, I guess, and then the numbers sold by vendors is 138. So like half of the ones printed were sold and the others were destroyed, I guess.
That sounds probable, possible, right?
I suppose, yeah. Then they have some information about complimentary free copies, means samples.
Where do we get hooked up with that?
But yeah, I kind of feel like they made up all these numbers because so many of them are like, if it's some body like the post office saying, hey DC, tell me how many issues you published or how many copies you published of this issue, and then how many copies on average of every issue this year you published and printed, and then how many of those did you actually sell or did your vendors sell. And I'm sure somebody's just like 354,000, 200,000, and just like fill out some form.
Be interesting to compare this to like a Batman or Superman issue from the same month. They was copy pasted. Are the numbers significantly different?
Right. Are the numbers that Jack Harris made up the same as the numbers that Julie Schwartz made up for Superman or whatever? I never really come across these any other time.
Yeah. I guess they probably don't even do these anymore. I don't know that they do comics in the mail anymore.
Yeah, I don't think you can subscribe to comics at all, like in any way. Like they used to always have the ads where you get them directly from the DC subscription department. I kind of feel like when I was a kid, my mom had like a magazine subscription lady who she would call to get the good deal on TV Guide or whatever, or People Magazine. And I feel like maybe she got comics too. We had my brother got subscription comics for maybe 1 year, like it was maybe a Christmas present or something. And maybe it came through that subscription lady. I wonder if my mom still uses that subscription lady. I've had almost a whole glass of wine. I mean, a whole bottle of wine, rather. I'm a lot more animated tonight because I had a whole bottle of wine. I can't read the letters pages with any articulation, but
I'm trying to be less punchy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to work or not. We'll see. Maybe I'll seem drunker than you by the end.
Might be a new dynamic.
We should just drink every episode. Just we're messes by the end, and we're just talking shit on like other cartoonists and stuff. Should I stop the recording part?
Yeah, here I'll wrap up the letters page.
Okay.
And so with that, we end the letters page for Legion 250, Superboy and the Legion 250.